two, one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting film journey here on Delusions of Grandeur. I am one of your hosts, but today we are going on about a film that was brought to our attention by none other than my fiancée Tammy. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about the film you subjected us to this week?
Well, it's called Cyrano. It's basically a love story, you know, but it's got a little bit of other things in it too, you know. But for the most part, it is a love story. So, um, I Cyrano is a dwarf, and he doesn't think that he is good enough for the lady that he loves. So he helps another gentleman that she has her eye on, woo her because he is a good he is a good soldier, but he is terrible as far as wooing a lady. So
Well, to be fair and honest, Cyrano is actually based on the real life of a true uh, novelist, playwright, epistolarian, and duelist. His name was Savinian de Cyrano de Bergerac, and he was a Frenchman. He lived from about March 1619 in Paris, France, and he died July 1655 at the age of 36.
Ouch.
So um, the uh, first time that the story of Cyrano came about, though, was in 1897, uh, written by playwright Edmund Rostand. And the first time I actually heard about this story, I know it was a film in 1950 starring Jose Ferrer. And then later, it was a 1990 a movie with Gerard Depardieu playing the role,
Huh.
which Gerard Depardieu was often the leading man of the French film industry that would do many of the different films in the 80s to 90s. So, but it is a story that comes from the French. So, um, and in both of those versions of the 1990 and the 1950, his nose is quite long. Uh, so oftentimes he reminds me of like a grown man
Pinocchio.
version of Pinocchio. But
Well, truth be told, he does also lie quite a bit throughout the story.
but aren't you a hoot?
Hoot
But
hoot.
anyways, um, bringing this back over to Tammy. Why don't you bring this around? Just needed to tell a little bit of the history before we get into it.
and what does IMDb say?
Ah, good question. I actually do not know at the
Oh,
moment. Let's see. Well, Joe Wright is the Did the movie Coco, Mademoiselle. He directed the movie Hannah. He directed Anna Karenina, and it seems like he likes to
Hmm.
work with Keira Knightley a lot, at least in those years. And then he also did the movie Pan. He directed that movie, which kind of bombed at the time, but I believe you and I saw that in the theaters, Tammy.
Hmm.
Um, and that was the one with the crocodile that jumped over the moon or whatever, which is
Okay.
about the only thing I remember from it. But um,
Which one?
the one with the big ass crocodile jumping over the moon,
Okay. What
it's
was the name
called
of the
Pan.
movie? Oh, Pan.
Yeah, a
Okay.
version of Peter Pan.
Oh, okay.
So, um, but let me go into what IMDb says about this film. Uh, okay, so too self-conscious to woo Roxanne himself. Wordsmith Cyrano de Bergerac helps young Christian nab her heart through love letters. So, headed back over to you to bring us into first impressions.
Okay. Well, go ahead, David. What's your first impression?
Okay. Well, I know the lead actor quite well, who played in Game of Thrones. He also played in definitely quite a few other movies, and he not too recently, a couple of years back, even though it has not come out yet to physical media, he played the Toxic Avenger in the recent remake, from what I understand. So he's been all over the board. I know.
Was he the one that was an elf?
No, he was not in Elf,
Okay.
but
I guess that was another dwarf.
there was another dwarf in Elf, and that one was often on Seinfeld and other things. But Peter Dinklage is his name. Uh, and I really like this adaptation. Um, some of the music is actually pretty good too. The other thing you should know is that this is also considered a musical because there is music all throughout that even the rest of the cast sing, and there is choreography that people dance to. So it is a musical, but it is also a period piece, uh, which it means that they dressed of the time period. I enjoyed the story. Um, Having seen the original movie, I haven't seen the Gerard Depardieu one, but I have seen the original one. It is fairly reminiscent of the older movie. It's just I think that the older movie gives him more eloquent words to play with, um, per se. But Peter Dinklage did a great job. Um, and Roxanne, she was a hottie. Um, I at first, the first song that she sang, I thought she sang it a little bit too quietly because it was. I feel like her voice got better as the film progressed. It's like she was being taught how to sing as the film was being filmed. If you get my drift, but
Well, in the behind the scenes, I think they said something about when they did the music numbers that they actually did them. right. They did them live. They didn't sit here and do all kinds of retakes and everything.
Yeah,
They didn't. They didn't dub them in. You know, when they shot the scenes of them singing, they shot the. That's when they didn't dub them in. They were actually really singing at that time. You know.
and I'm trying to remember the exact spot that they played because it was a or filmed at, uh, but apparently it was like a really remote location and real uh, city that
Yeah, it was a real town. Yeah.
it was a real town, and evidently because of the pandemic, it was totally like shut down. So they had the run of the place for the most part. So that's how they filmed it from there. And like I said, it was another film that was filmed during that time period of where everyone kind of had to do absolutely nothing and stay like an arm's space away from each other. And wear masks like it was the zombie apocalypse. But
And they said that when they did the outside part, that really was for real outside on this hill, and the weather was supposed to be a certain way, and it actually turned on them, but they filmed it anyways.
and
And
apparently that location was done during an active volcano. Um,
Peter said that he made a comment about it's easier to film you being cold when you're actually cold.
very true. So, but yeah, I thought that Roxanne. Let's see who played her. Uh, I believe she would play. It was played by Haley Bennett. She looks stunning um, in whatever she wore, but the character of Roxanne, I couldn't always entirely like her character because you know, though I understand the romanticism behind what she liked, I feel like she was very high maintenance and like you had to be a really well taught man to be in the good graces of Roxanne's love, you know. So
Uh, True, and also, although this Duke was generally portrayed as an asshole, I had the impression that she was leading him on and giving him false hopes.
Okay, are you done, David?
yeah, but Boris was talking.
Well, he
Uh,
stopped
uh,
talking.
did we have some glitch?
I had a glitch, so
Oh, uh, did you hear what I said?
I heard that there was something about the Duke, and then like it
Yeah,
glitched.
yeah. I said although the Duke was generally portrayed as an asshole, Roxanne was kind of leading him on and giving him false hopes. At
Well,
least I got that
she kind of
impression.
she kind of had to, anyways. Her family was poor, and she was being forced into accepting or trying to accept a marriage proposal from someone who had who was rich, and this guy was close to the king. Uh, Not just close to the king, but close to the cardinal and pretty high up there. So the fact that he was even coming around and noticing her was oh, her family was all for that.
Where did you get the idea she was poor?
Because her mother or whoever was dressing her said we are we don't have any funds, and then while they were getting ready for something, even the landlord was calling after them. Where is my rent? It's coming.
Okay, I just to me they didn't seem like they were
She
poor because of where she her place of residence, and she had like a maid that followed her around and everything.
Well,
So it
they
just didn't.
were out of funds, running out of funds, or out of funds,
Ah,
and their father had not left them with any money, and apparently he had not too recently died.
okay, I get it now. Okay, was that all then?
That is all.
Okay, you're next, Boris.
Oh, well, truth be told, I was kind of disappointed with this movie in the end. Of course, no disrespect to you, Tammy, or to anyone who likes the movie, but okay, after watching it, I did a little bit of research and found out that the movie probably ended the way it did because it was somewhat based on real life events, but I don't know. It's mainly the ending that completely ruined it for me. I don't know if we should say right away how it ends, but I don't know. I felt that ending was really pointless. Like they made it the way they did only so it wouldn't be a happy ending, and uh, uh,
Oh yeah,
otherwise.
you always like everything tied up in ribbons and bows.
Well,
Everything should be happy.
except maybe horror movies.
Oh, so everyone should die in horror movies. Just
Well, not necessarily, but I'm saying in a horror story, it makes it usually serves some purpose if the main character dies at the end. But in this story, I don't know. I felt like Cyrano's death didn't really contribute much to the plot. Like they had it end that way just so it would be a tragic ending, and I didn't even understand what exactly he died from anyway.
I believe he died from syphilis,
Oh,
and at that point in time, it was untreatable. It was from his war wound, um, and because he had no money at the end of the war, um, he was kind of destitute and living off of scraps of food, and of course, without treatment and proper nutrition, he died.
but isn't syphilis a sexually transmitted disease?
If it wasn't syphilis, it might have been either scarlet fever or I know it was mentioned amongst the nurses and nuns at the end, like what he
Uh,
had.
I'm sorry, where was it mentioned?
I know it was. I know he had some sort of a wound because it was still bleeding.
Well, yeah, it was bleeding into his letters. So, and
Huh.
it said like 3 years later, if 3 years later his wound from the war is still bleeding, there's something wrong with that. And of course, you kind of have to
Yes.
expect that he's going to die.
Yes, something is very wrong with that. How can anyone be bleeding for 3 years?
Well, he had no money. He had no job. Um, he was basically a let go from war person because he was injured and no longer able to be an able-bodied man to fight for the king, um, which means he had no pension, and which means he had no funds in which to buy food, or so he had to get food from free places. things of
Uh,
that in nature, and oftentimes things were not free.
okay, but if you have a bleeding wound and you cannot stop the bleeding, it doesn't take 3 years to bleed to death.
I agree, but you have to suspend your moment of disbelief for the story. Unfortunately, they just expect you to believe that okay, 3 years later, his wound is still bleeding and he's dying from it.
That's weird.
It might
Okay,
be
I
weird,
guess.
but I guess I'll see if while we're discussing this movie, I'll see if I can figure out what exactly happened in real life. Uh, just once we get into the story and stuff.
Okay.
Anything else you want to say, Boris?
Uh, well, when I initially read what the movie was going to be about, I must admit I kind of expected it to be boring, which it wasn't. I actually, throughout the movie, I enjoyed it more than I expected. But yeah, the ending, no disrespect to anyone who disagrees, but the ending really ruined it for me. So yeah, that's it.
Okay. Well, when it came to my turn for movies, for some reason, well, I wasn't sure if this is the same one that plays an elf or not, but David said it's not. But I was watching Elf, and the dwarf that's in Elf came on, and I had been thinking about what I was going to have for a movie, and all of a sudden, this one popped into my head seeing the dwarf on Elf. So that's why I picked it. So, and and I haven't seen it in a while, and in fact, I think I was the one that said something to David when it first came out that I wanted to see it. Correct, David?
Correct.
So,
But I also wanted to see it too, just because of Peter Dinklage and the story.
yeah. So I remember when it came out, and I thought that it looked interesting, and my first impression of it is that yeah, it was. I thought it was really good. I like Peter as an actor. We've seen him in other things, and I think it was, it's to me, it's like a totally different take on like a love story, Um,
It's also a different take on the story because he wasn't a midget in any of these stories or in real life. So
yep. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It was I will, sometimes you see an ad for a movie and everything, and the best parts of the movie are what you see in the ad. So I was not disappointed. I mean, I felt bad about the ending. I understand, everybody's got their own opinion, Boris. So I did feel bad about the ending because it's like, oh come on, after everything he's been through, you know,
Oh yeah.
I I would have liked to have, once it comes out about everything, and how she really does feel about it. It would have been nice if he would have been able to get the girl in the end, not die in the end.
Indeed.
So, spoiler alert, but I guess I kind of somewhat agree with you, Boris, that it is kind of disappointing the end, just because throughout the movie, you're as the movie is winding down towards the end, you're kind of rooting for him, you know,
Uh,
and then when
Only near the end, not throughout the whole movie.
no, that's what I said. As the movie's winding down, you're kind
Oh,
of you're kind of rooting for him, you know, and it's so. But other than that, I did really enjoy it. So
Oh yeah.
so does anybody else have anything to say before we get into it?
Uh, I don't think so.
Yes, I
Okay.
was disappointed in which I'm sure we'll come to it. I was disappointed in the fact that Cyrano actually died, but I was also understanding of it because it hasn't happened differently in any of the stories. And from what I gather, it's kind of sort of what happened towards the end of his 36 um, years of being alive.
So
I
the other versions he dies into.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's something I didn't know before watching this movie.
Well, no one
Oh,
expects a happy ending all the time.
Yeah, but if it if it is a tragic ending, then that tragic ending should serve some purpose to the plot. There should be a reason why it ends the way it does, and this was like he died for no reason. Like
He
the
died
story.
because of his wound.
Yeah, but what? How did that wound contribute to the story?
How did that wound contribute to the story? The wound contributed to the story because it's not that they wanted him to die. He did die. And
Yeah,
sometimes life gives you curveballs and you can't survive from it. Sometimes life isn't all ribbons and bows.
in real life, as I read, apparently he died from some wooden board falling on his head, or at least that's what was said in some article I read. Not sure if that's the truth, but that's what I read.
Well, yeah, in real life it was something different, but in here they use a wound, and apparently 3 years later it's still bleeding, and he's dying from it. Which, to be fair and honest, if if someone is bleeding profusely from a wound, uh, sometimes it does take a while for people to die if it's not treated.
I'm thinking
Hmm.
whatever whatever. I don't know what the proper term is, but I'm thinking that his wound from the war because he was shot. I think it never was treated properly, so it kept getting infected and kept reopening and kept getting infected and
Huh.
reopening. And I think that's why 3 years later, it was still because it just kept going. You know, when you have I think it was kind of like what they call septic or something to that effect.
Oh, okay, that does make some more sense.
I know when I had my some of my surgery, I had stuff. I had a wound from the surgery that I had to clean, and we had to pack it, right, David?
Yep,
And I
we had
had
to make sure that the wound was redressed and stuff like that, even after she went under the knife. And if we had not treated it, she might
there
have
was
died like Cyrano.
you're right. It was something that we had to
Damn.
clean it every day, and I had to use this wound stuff, and we had to put gauze in there. That was the way it was supposed to heal because it was something that was supposed to heal by itself. So, but you had to clean it out every day and everything, and that's what I'm thinking, or it would get what they would say septic, and I think that's what it is. He didn't have the proper stuff at that time to do something like that. But that's
Hospitals these days, hospitals these days only care about you enough to bandage you up and then send you on your way. Sometimes.
so. Anyways, we at the beginning of this story, we see um Roxanne is going to, I believe, everybody is going to a play, or they're going to some sort of a performance. And you see all the people going, and they're all dressed up, and they all look like clowns with their makeup on, and
And their wigs
and their wigs and everything. Yes,
and
and
gloves.
the the performer that's on stage, um, Cyrano shows up and is making fun of him.
Well, not
And
only does he make fun of him, but apparently he had actually written to him to not come and retire.
right,
And there was an argument that then ensued between so-called actor and uh, fellow patron of the arts that if he did not get off the stage now, then he will get down there and come fight him off hence. And down to the last wording, the dude did not want to leave the stage. So he did end up going down to the stage and basically scared him away.
but then he gets challenged by another.
And this other seems to be a sword of the Duke of I forget his name, but he's very close to the king, and he's taken Roxanne to this play, and he's the one that's behind sending him out to, you know, take care of this skirmish. And also, the proprietor of the play comes out uh, and says something, and he gives him a bag of gold, and he's like, "If you give me a bag of gold like this, I will close this place every night." But anyways, back
Yes,
to you,
anyways,
Tim.
Cyrano ends up having the sword fight with this other gentleman in front of everybody. And due to the other gentleman's stupidity, he ends up losing his life.
Yep, and the one thing that's different that I've seen between this one and the original is that Peter Dinklage's character actually holds him close, as if it pains him to actually take his life and whatnot. Uh, and whispers like close to his ear and whatnot, as if the taking of his life was not something that he had wanted to do.
You're right, and he shows remorse in it by whispering in his ear, and he gently, gently takes the sword out, gently lays the gentleman down.
Hmm.
You could tell it. You know, he he wasn't trying
He
to act
killed him with respect.
right. He wasn't trying to act like he was in battle out on the field. Oh, it was not something he really wanted to do. He walked away. He had walked away from him after he made his point and did not hurt him. And it was the gentleman that went. He came up from behind him. Then it should have been over when he made his point. You know,
Yep,
Yeah.
but
and because of that act, the Duke then says that and he makes an offhand comment to Roxanne in the carriage that he went too far. And so I believe he then sends men after him. But I also think somewhere in here he tells Roxanne to uh, not be friends with him anymore, right?
Correct. And
Y-
while this is going on, Roxanne sees um, Christian in the audience and is just um, it's love
Well,
at first sight for her when she sees Christian in the audience.
yes,
And Christian
Maybe.
is, we will find out, he is a new recruit for the army. The army, yeah. But we don't know anything about him yet at this point. But yes, when Cyrano leaves the establishment, he is talking to with a friend of his, and the friend of his is
kind of
joshing
a
him a bit.
captain of the guards of a sort.
Right. He's picking on him as a sort because he won't profess his love to Roxanne. He won't tell her, and he's trying to tell him, you should tell her. You should tell her. And
And he does not think that because the way he looks and because he is a midget, that she will ever look at him in any way, shape, or form that he would want her to.
so he believes that the relationship they have will never be any more than friendship. But
yes.
he will do anything she asks, basically. He
He will even go so far as making sure that she is with the one that she loves.
that she thinks she loves, yes. So yes, after the performance comes to an abrupt halt at the establishment, and uh, his friend and him part ways. He is um, he is confronted by um, a good amount of people.
Yep.
It
Um,
is it
well,
is it is quite a fight.
yep. But before that happens, Roxanne actually uh, asks to come see him through her nurse or whoever takes care of her, and she basically tells him about the man that she saw in the, but then he realizes no, it's not. But he promises anyways to uh, protect him.
Right. Well,
And
this
I
is
guess
the next. This meeting is the next day. The
ah,
lady, his, the yes, Roxanne's
that's right.
lady sets up the meeting, and then he ends up getting into that sword fight with all those guys. And then the next day, they actually have the meeting at it looks like a bakery type of a place.
Yep, and Cyrano is actually well known among the men of the town uh, to be able to write letters so proficiently that I believe it's kind of like his side gig, like he does it for money.
And
Because
poems.
yeah, he apparently is a wordsmith um, by hire, and the baker is actually asking him to write letters to a woman that he fancies.
Well, he's helping the baker write it. Baker has stuff down on paper, and he's asking him. He reads it to him, and he's asking him for help about, does this sound right, or this. He's basically helping him write it. So he didn't write it totally for him. He helped him write it. So
And I do believe that he's doing this in service of him so that he can have uh, have a room to himself to talk. It's a favor.
correct. Right. They are favoring each other. But yes, Roxanne meets him, and at first you could see the look on his face as she is describing this gentleman that she has feelings for, and he is so into it, and you you really he really believes she's talking about him at first, and then when you could see how crushed he is on his face when he realizes it's not him.
Well, I don't know. I somehow figured it out uh, almost right away that she was talking about someone else. I forgot what exactly revealed it for me, but
Well, yeah, us watching it, it doesn't take long to figure out that that it's not Cyrano she's talking about, but
But Cyrano had just had that conversation with his friend last night that it's still fresh on his mind, you know. So when she's describing this person, uh, at first he thinks like maybe she's describing me, you know. But um, it
and he
when it
does such a good job. Peter does that. You feel for him. You really feel for him, and you see the crushed look on his face, even though he's trying to hide it from her. When he realizes it's not him, you know.
yeah,
But he really makes you feel the moment. He does.
yes,
So, but then when he realizes it's not him, he does promise to look after him and to befriend him and watch over him. And she asks him to have Christian. That's the gentleman she's interested in. She wants him to write her a letter, and that's kind of how the whole thing starts. Because then Christian and Cyrano do meet, and Cyrano realizes that
well,
Christian is the one.
and how they meet is a little interesting because he's being basically accosted by the soldiers because evidently that's a hazing in this day and age where new recruits get beat up.
Although he's holding his own very good, actually.
And then when Cyrano comes in, everyone is cheering for him. And then when he tells him his name, he embraces him and he's like, "You are my brother," you know, and everyone is surprised that he's done that and everything. So I wonder what kind of respect the others have for him after that moment. But you know, they were expecting
indeed.
a fight.
So yeah, this kind of starts the whole ball rolling because after that happens, Christian is telling him that he doesn't know how to talk to women, and he doesn't know how to write the right things, and that she could never go for him because he wouldn't know the proper things to say to her. And Cyrano comes up with this idea that he's going to help him write the letters. She'll never know.
Well, and she doesn't until the very end of the movie. It's surprising how long they were able to keep up the charade.
Well, I think not to be a spoiler alert, I think she knows that meaning at the end of the movie. I think she has already figured it out, but she's waiting for confirmation from him.
I believe so, but that was like towards the end of the movie by then.
Right. Well,
It wasn't.
we'll wait till the end of the movie, and then I'll say why I think that. But
Well,
anyways,
yeah, we keep wanting to jump ahead.
True.
does anybody else have anything to pop in there about where we're at so far?
Uh, well, one thing I was wondering was since they all lived near each other, why exactly did Roxanne want Christian to send her love letters to begin with? Why not just interact with him in person?
I think that's how things were kind of like done at the time. You don't just meet, you kind of like get to know each other that way.
Huh.
That's more like, I think that's more like was more considered the proper way at that time. I think was to
Oh.
get to know each other that way because, she couldn't even go meet up with Cyrano without that other lady with, you know. It was that's why I think that he that's why I think she wanted him to write her a letter, was to start things off as to how to get to know him. So
Oh,
I think that's just how things were kind of like considered proper at the time. Because I don't think it was considered proper for a lady to go meet up with a gentleman alone. That's why
To
that
woo a woman, it
yeah.
was something. It was part of chivalry. To woo a woman, you had to court her, and in the act of courting, oftentimes it took time. Um, in the Middle Ages, I believe there was an exact number of days to court a woman. you know, uh, like a fortnight or something like that. That you had to woo her first, and
Jeez.
that was something that was done at some point in time where whether it was to strum a mandolin outside their bedroom window or recite poetry, you had to get her to like you first.
And even not so far back, 50s and 60s, there was still proper. You had asked you had to get permission to take her out on a date. You had to
You
you
had to
know
ask
you
the father, the man of the household, in order to permission to ask for a date.
and you had
Yeah,
to ask.
but all that is still real time interaction, interaction in person, not remote.
Well, I'm
But
just saying
that's
there was a lot of respect given to a lot of things dealing with, uh, uh, you know, uh, from respect of the head of the household, respect in getting someone to know you, to notice you. Um, Oftentimes, men would sit outside bedroom windows and they'd look like weirdos, but they were uh, trying to get the woman of their intentions to notice them, to fall in love with them, and then eventually, hopefully, maybe have a relationship with them. It it was a struggle to get a woman, especially a woman with a dowry, or someone who was a noble. You know, oftentimes the nobles were looking for people who are richer in order to make sure that the family line was taken care of well into the future.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers your question a little bit.
I guess.
Okay. So basically, from here on, you see she gets the letters, you see her response and how she acts, and then she writes the letters back, and there's and then finally one day you know, she wants a meeting, and um Christian totally messes up the meeting. He thinks that he can do this all by himself, except for she's expecting him to talk like he talks in the letters.
uh,
And he cannot talk like he talks in the letters.
Nope, and
Wondering
he
why.
is so sure of himself when he goes there. Um, he even tells Cyrano, "I don't need you anymore."
In the meantime, while this is also going on, we have, I believe, the Duke is putting pressure on Roxanne that he wants her. He wants to be with her. And
Yeah, she. That's a part of the story I kind of have an issue with. Like, she, I think she should have just told him that she didn't love him, but she was kind of faking caring about him.
right, I think she was um I think she was trying to be nice and everything at the beginning before Christian, like, I think she was trying to give him a chance and get to know him somewhat and being nice about it until Christian came into the picture. Then she was just kind of like going with the flow because I don't think she knew how to push him away because of her family.
You know,
So,
the Duke kind of reminds me of a character in another movie musical that I know,
Which one?
Moulin Rouge.
Ha! Ha! Interesting.
The Duke kind of reminds me of that because there is a love triangle there too, um, and whatnot. That kind of reminds me of this in a
Uh,
little bit. And there is a song that was remade for the film uh, by that was a police song called Roxanne. So that's another reason why it reminds me.
ah! Oh yeah, he did.
So I don't know why I brought that up, but it kind of reminded me of some of the uh,
Yeah, uh,
tryst that's going on in this movie.
I actually saw that musical, although quite a while ago. I don't remember the details, but yeah, I do vaguely remember there being some older man also wanting the woman, and
Satine.
yeah, yeah, and I also remember that movie didn't end very well either.
Okay, so um, yes, he totally screws up the meeting, and in order to fix it, they decide that
No, it
they're going.
did not.
What?
Which is different beats to the plot. Tammy, take it away.
What? You were cutting out.
I said, go ahead, take it away.
I was, and then you started talking, and you were cutting out. So,
Hmm.
anyways, after he messes up the meeting, they decide they're going to fix it by actually going to her house, and Cyrano is feeding him the words as what to say to her. And during this, um, Cyrano and Christian have a little bit of a disagreement, you might want to say. And Cyrano basically takes over and just stays out of sight. And um,
Yeah, that's a part that kind of confused me. How did Roxanne not notice a different voice?
she did,
She did.
and I forgot what he said. He said something, and she was like, "Oh, okay," you know. So,
Yeah, I forgot that part. I'm sorry.
but she did say something, but I forgot what he said. And then you know, then she was okay. But
It
he
is
said
only
something.
my excitement at our meeting, or something to that effect.
But he does end up getting things to the point where um, Christian actually gets to go give her a kiss.
Oh, yes.
And then I believe after that we flip to seeing that the Duke is going. Um, he is leaving to go be on the front lines at the war, and he's going to take the guards with him. And if he takes the guards with him, that would include Christian and Cyrano. And Roxanne somehow twists things around about so that he changes his mind and decides not to take the guards. And he think she makes it out that how disappointed Cyrano would be not to be on the front and to be stuck back with the training. And because doesn't the Duke doesn't have a high thought of Cyrano because he has tried to recruit him for other things, and he refuses. So anything he can do to basically upset Cyrano, he's fine with. So then he does change his mind about taking the guards with him. So she was able to flip everything around so that those two don't end up going.
Uh,
Well, she
ye-
basically professes her love to, or has to profess her love to the Duke in order to make it so that Cyrano can and the soldiers are can stay here while he goes to war, because that leaving Cyrano there would infuriate him. He'd want to be on the battlefront.
yeah. Where did Tammy disappear?
Dave, you're muted too. What's going on?
I'm here.
Oh,
Oh,
where is Tam?
I guess we
Oh,
lost her for a moment.
oh, hello.
I guess we lost her for a moment.
I think I'm back.
I guess we're having a little bit of a bad connection.
Am I? Can you
At
hear
least
me?
it's not. Yes. At
Yes.
least it's not always me who has that issue.
Okay, so you can hear me again.
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to get an answer about.
Sorry, we I couldn't hear you for a moment, but we're having glitches. I'm having glitches. So, but anyways,
We'll quit spreading them around.
ah,
So, anyways, Roxanne gets a letter while Christian is there about the Duke going to be coming back, and he is saying that she will be his, and no, you know, there's no ifs ands about it. She is going to be his. They are going to be married, and even if they do not get married, she is still going to be his. He makes it very evident in this letter.
Yeah.
not only that, but he sent a priest there to ensure that this happens. Thankfully, the priest does not know of whom that he's supposed to marry.
Correct.
Uh, yeah.
So in
Although
an
I'm.
impromptu move, she marries Christian because Christian doesn't actually read the letter, but Cyrano does. And Cyrano realizes the trouble that is arising.
Yeah. I kind of have to say that wedding makes Christian's death somewhat predictable because with the lie about the letters going on and all that, it's kind of obvious that she and Christian won't stay together. And then when they get married by a priest and wedding is a religious marriage is supposed to be until death does them part, that kind of gives away that he is going to get killed.
True.
It's always a possibility, but it is not a definite. Doesn't always have to happen that way, but I do see how it can be predictable.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, the Duke gets there, finds out what happened, and when he goes to write his letters about what is who is going to the war and everything, he says do I send these people or do I send these people? And he goes, and he's telling this other guy, he goes, this is not an easy decision to make and everything, but you know damn well the reason he's sending Cyrano and Christian to the front, even though he's trying to play it off, you know.
Yes.
And we haven't really mentioned anything, but in each one of these parts, there actually has been a song for each one of these areas of the film. You know, so there was a song when
Well,
When Christian and
Christian has a
um,
song
Cyrano set up
with some of the soldiers with him.
right that one. There's that one. There's the she goes into a song when she gets the first letter. So throughout the movie so far, there has been songs for each area. You know.
Uh,
Well, yeah,
yeah,
even the Duke sings about uh, respect that he should be given
Right.
and shit like
And
uh,
that. When
uh,
he sounds like totally a tyrant when he's singing that song. Just I
y-
deserve this. I deserve that. I deserve this. I deserve this. You know.
yeah. Although I kind of have to say I enjoyed that song. It kind of reminds me of Scar's song from The Lion King, which
be
in
prepared.
the yes, yes. In The Lion King, that's kind of my favorite song. So yeah, I liked this song too. And although it's maybe bad in the context, but out of context, it could kind of work as a motivational song to encourage someone to fight for their goals.
I like the fact that we each like different songs. I like that one, but and I do think it's a good one. But
Your
I think,
favorite is the one that's coming up right now.
yep.
While they're at, so go ahead.
My favorite is while they are uh, while they are at the war. For the moment, they are just encamped on the outskirts of whatever city that they are going to go, supposedly waiting for orders to go and fight. Well, they are sent the orders to. Well, he actually the Duke's got his choice. He is given the choice of which factions of armies that he can send to battle this city, and he chooses the one in which Cyrano is
I already
And
said that.
Christian,
in. But
I already
the
said the
song
name
that
of
I
the
like
sequence.
is "Wherever I Fall," which is the letters that these men are sending home to their loved ones. Uh,
oh, that one, yeah.
I really like that one. Maybe because of the sorrow in their voices, like the fact that they know that they're going to die and they're sending these letters home.
Oh, yes.
It's a totally different uh, idea and concept of uh, not knowing when you're going to die and knowing when you're going to go and die.
Yeah, maybe this man didn't entirely know, but it was very likely at least.
And which is why the song was called "Wherever I Fall." So,
Yeah.
but in any case, so the men go off the war. Christian basically has is fighting with Cyrano that he should tell her the truth, and when he kept tell when he finally told him that he's been sending a letter to her every single day, um, and he's upset because he wants her to know him for who he is, and Cyrano refuses to tell her. So he feels like she doesn't really love him for who he is. He decides to go and sacrifice himself.
Oh, yes. Uh, I have to admit, even though he was kind of the main character's rival, he
He took
didn't
himself out
deserve
of the
to.
he took himself out of the equation.
Yeah, I found his death rather sad and unfair.
I thought his death was unfair, but he's the idiot and fool that went off and ran. He had to have known that he was going to get shot. I don't think he should have killed himself, but he decided to do the honorable thing and step down. But he stepped down like 6 feet under.
Definitely.
Anyways, back to you, Tammy.
Well, then we got that happens, and Cyrano ends up being shot too. And then we get the next thing is, it's 3 years later, like we talked about at the beginning. Cyrano is basically destitute, but he comes to I believe it's a hospital that nuns are running every day.
Yep,
He
and
comes,
even though he can't pay for a meal, someone is in fact going to try to take care of his meal for that evening. But you can see that Cyrano is hurt, and you can see that he is bleeding onto the letters that he is writing. In fact, the last letter uh, that he wrote to um, Roxanne not only had a tear of his. That's what he was. That's what made Christian uh, uh,
get
start in him.
upset.
Yeah, because he realized that he actually. I couldn't find any results. Oh, sorry.
But for some reason, Cyrano said that the blood on the letter was Christian's blood.
Well, yeah, the blood was actually his, I believe, or whatnot.
But the letters that we see him writing here at this end, he's not actually even giving them to her. He's just writing these letters.
Nope. But there was a tear stain on the one letter, and Christian was all, uh, 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 "Were you crying while you were writing this letter?" And he's like, "Well, poets do get emotional."
Right, and that ends up being the last letter she gets that she originally thinks is the last letter from Christian. But I think when they go and have their talk, he asks to see he asks to see the letter, and she gives it to him, and she catches him because he's not reading the letter anymore. He's saying what is all in the letter, but you can tell he's not reading it anymore, which means she knows that he wrote it. Because how can you sit here and read this or pretend to read it, you know, word for word if you're not the one that wrote it?
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, he wasn't even reading
I,
it.
uh, I also wonder at which point and how she found out that Christian was dead.
Because she was given that letter too. She thought that 3 years ago, she thought that that was Christian's last letter to her.
Right after it says 3 years,
Uh,
Cyrano is
uh,
writing a letter.
oh yeah, the letter said something about that he is probably going to die.
Yep, but in actuality, he's also talking about himself too. At that point in time, he knows that he's going to die, but he's writing it like as if he were a Christian. But the blood on there is actually Cyrano's from his war wound, and he's reading. when he begins to read the letter, he starts to look up, and while he's looking up, she mentions that he's not no longer reading the letter. He's speaking from memory.
Yeah,
So then the realization comes, and um, then we go into the song that I like,
of course.
and um, at the end of the song, it is the end, and it is the end, the end, the end.
Yeah, and it leaves Roxanne with nobody to love, including the Duke, which I'm glad for that at least. But
Oh yeah,
um,
what even happened with the Duke?
He died
they don't
before too, didn't he?
show that.
Did he get killed or what?
I believe so.
But when? But by whom?
I don't know. But I believe that since Cyrano and Christian came back dead, I'm assuming, and this is just an assumption. I'm assuming that they lost the war. Um, you know. Um,
Yeah, but those high positioned assholes usually stay alive, don't they?
well, I hope to God he didn't, but I suppose in reality, we can always hope that he died. That someone stuck a musket barrel sword into his chest or something like that, because he certainly deserved it.
Yes.
There's always hope that karma is still a bitch even then.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
anyway,
Yes, we are now at the end. So, anything else anybody wants to put in before we go to
Well,
production and stuff?
I have already given my thoughts on the ending, so not really, I guess.
All right. Well, I guess I'll start off. I think production was really good. I mean, we did watch, David and I did watch the behind the scenes, but um, so we know that this was an actual village that they used for the filming, and this was an actual place outside. You know, when they did the outside stuff during the war. So we know that these places were actually real. And I think their choice of where to do the filming and everything was very good. It really went along with the story and the time. I think their wardrobes went along with it too. And I thought the production itself was really good.
Oh, yes. Yes, the production really was good. I cannot complain about that. I actually really liked that translucent cloak that Roxanne was wearing in that scene when she was making her confession to Cyrano uh, uh, around the beginning. When it comes to the wardrobe, I think that detail was my favorite. And otherwise, yeah, it's well, of course, it's a high budget movie. I don't really expect it to have any flaws in the production.
and I definitely like the wardrobe of everyone involved. I definitely believe that they the the things that the people wore, um, including the cast members. They looked of the time period that they came from. I thought that the town in which they used was very unique, with all its uh, mesa-looking stone buildings and cobblestone streets and marketplaces. I thought were interesting. Made it very quaint, and I thought that these songs were definitely arranged well. There were some memorable ones, as we know. So, yes, I thought it was a good production. Um, though I do wish that we might have been able to see Cyrano actually survive somehow. Um, I do understand the need to show a tragedy story because they were showing a period piece to begin with. And in that day and age, in the age of William Shakespeare and all that jazz, there were tragedies. And people enjoyed a great tragedy at one point in time. In fact, there are people who enjoy tragedy even today. So, um,
Well, I guess, okay, it was based on a real person who died young, and on previous versions of the story where he also dies, but I don't know, since they changed so much anyway and deviated both from real history and previous versions, they could have as well left him alive. But okay, maybe that's just me.
okay. Well, in any case, um, did anyone? Well, we talked about music all throughout, so I guess Tammy, take us into favorite scenes and/or favorite characters.
Um, Boris, what's your favorite scene and character?
Favorite character, probably Cyrano. Favorite scene, who? Well, for example, I liked that scene when Christian was at Roxanne's window and Cyrano was telling him what to tell her, and then for a moment, when the song began, they made it look as if since Christian was just repeating Cyrano's words, and they kind of took him out of the scene and made it look as if Cyrano and Roxanne were singing to each other. I liked that part.
I
I
thought
also
when he actually said, "Aren't you a hoot?" That would have been your favorite part.
sorry. Oh yeah, aren't you a hoot? Yeah, yeah, they did say hoot. Yeah, yeah, I did like that
I was
part.
thinking of you when I heard that line again.
Yeah, I guess that's. I kind of ruined Davos for everyone who knows me. uh, I also liked the part where Christian tells Cyrano that they should tell Roxanne the truth. It was sad, but also beautiful in a way. But yeah, I didn't like what happens afterwards. So yeah, I guess those would be my favorite scenes.
Okay, David, same thing. Scene and character.
Um, my favorite character is definitely Cyrano. My two favorite moments is when he is respectful of the swordsman that he killed in the on the stage. When he shows respect to him, I liked that. And then um, of course that song uh, moment, the one where the letters are being written to their loved ones. That's another moment. So oh, and the fight scene that he has, that was pretty cool. The fact that they tried to like bring him up and string him up to hang him or up the wall, and then he overthrew threw them or whatnot, uh, and you didn't see what he did. But
Yeah.
Okay.
what about you?
My favorite character is Cyrano. I do enjoy the scene you said with the respect for the when he killed the gentleman on stage, but I like the fight scene because he just takes them all out. It's like you know.
Yes.
Um, and I had another one in mind, and now I don't remember it. But um, I guess my other one is when she's telling him about who she wants, and he is so intently listening, and he's so thinking it's him, and he's getting into it, and then you see what a good actor he is because you really are believing how he's feeling and everything. You're right there with him, even when he
Definitely.
even
Can
when he
you
gets
believe
let down.
can you believe he's 55 years old?
Wow.
A little bit. When he looks gruffy at times, you can. But okay.
Alrighty. Well, hopefully you ladies and gentlemen have enjoyed our discussion on this film. I enjoyed watching it again. But hopefully you get a chance to watch the movie. Let us know down in the comments what you thought of the movie, what you thought of our discussion, and I guess we'll see you next time. Normally I do originals before I do remakes, but this time I think I'm going to go with a remake of a movie. Um,
Oh, which
so
one?
Ben Hur.
Oh, okay.
Um, Let me just figure out what year really quick because it's been a little bit. Ben Hur, I believe it's from 2016.
Let's see. Mm,
Have you ever seen the original Ben Hur?
not sure. It does. It does sound familiar from somewhere. Huh.
It's about Judah
Uh,
Ben Hur, and it's one of those stories they would show on Christian channels and whatnot. They had Charlton Heston in it originally. You know what? Let's do the Charlton Heston one first, and then I'll
Why didn't you say something earlier, David? Because it was on, and I could have had set it up to record.
I have a special edition Ben Hur.
Okay. Well, you always tell
uh,
me You always tell me it's hard to find your movies, so that's why
I
I
know
didn't.
where
So,
this one is.
Okay.
are we doing the 2016 one or another
I
version?
think we're gonna do the original first, because in order to understand what I want to do the uh, Ben Hur from 2016, you need to see the first one first.
And the
Uh,
first one is which year?
1959.
Okay, let's see. Holy hoot hoot. 3.5 hours.
The only reason I know that is because it's on right now on TCM.
Oh, okay.
1959.
I know. I just said that. The only reason I know is because it's on right now on TCM.
Well,
Phew.
I have, I know, I have knowledge of where it is
Well, yeah,
in my collection.
it's already been on for 2 hours, so yeah, there's nothing I can do about it. It's just, but it is on.
Phew.
There's actually two other versions. It's just there's a reason why I want to do these movies, and um, it is in relation to your tragic ending um, subject that came up. You know, so
Oh, so you.
this is because there is a tragedy that happens in Ben Hur, and they put the shoe on the other foot in the other one. So that's all I will really say about
Okay. It,
it. But in any case, like, share, subscribe, everyone, and we'll see you next week as we discuss a classic with Charles Adesky.
Alrighty.
Catch y'all later.
Catch you
catch
later.
you later.